Well, welcome to today's Entrepreneur Show. I am so excited. My name is Heidi Richards Mooney, and I am your host today. And I have the pleasure to interview an amazing woman that I met on LinkedIn very recently. And I reached out to her and said, love to have her on my show. And she said, sure. And so here we are to get together. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Tisha Hammond. She's a CEO and small business cheerleader. Her topic today is the art of negotiation. And let me tell you a little bit more about her. Her passion is making entrepreneurs shine. Her business consulting strategies are customized for the aspiring entrepreneur or the existing business owner operator looking to expand through growing pains. Tisha is passionate about mentoring entrepreneurs of all ages and discovering multiple income streams for her clients. Her professional network grows steadily through the creation of My Success Team Acknowledgement and Reward System called STARS. So welcome, Tisha. Tell us a little bit about STARS.
So STARS is what I call my network of professionals. So through LinkedIn and Facebook and sometimes Instagram, most certainly through word of mouth, I've been able to form fabulous working relationships with the professionals all over the country in different industries, and I want them to shine, so I call them stars. I want to promote their business as well as promote mine. This is just my referral network.
I love it. I actually like the word stars better than tribes because, tribes just sounds like, not refined, if you will. It's not a bad word, but it's a good way to describe it. Stars sounds wonderful because you look up in the sky and you make a wish and wow, so many wonderful things you could do with that word. So, well, thank you for telling us what that meant. Let's talk about negotiation, which is what we're talking about today. Tell us what your definition or your view of negotiation is and why it is an absolute must to know how to negotiate a business.
Okay. So negotiation to me is just an artistic and creative form of communication. I think that we negotiate in a lot of daily interactions and we don't even recognize that we're doing it. So for me, negotiation is an art, which makes me an artist and makes communication my canvas. And that is what I'm trying to go around the country and share with anyone that will listen, that we can get the win-win in nearly any conversation we have. And particularly if we're doing this with a business idea in mind, we want to come out as winners, most of the time. And there's nothing wrong with going for a win-win and learning strategies how to accomplish that. So our conversation can be casual. It can be very formal. We can be at a table. We can be virtual online like this and still both be able to achieve a desired result at the end of the conversation.
Well, that's an excellent way of describing it. I think I haven't quite heard it put that way. In fact, what I like about it is it sounds more overwhelming than it really is. So in your experience, what is the number one obstacle that you would think people have in achieving or creating, say, a successful negotiation?
I think that people don't understand that conflict can be healthy, and for that reason might perceive negotiation as automatic conflict, in that there's supposed to be some bad blood in these type of discussions. But if you understand that conflict can achieve great things, then you go into a negotiation with a different attitude, a different set of information, and a different desired outcome. So I think that when people are kind of scared of conflict, they go into negotiations with a mindset to fail and sabotage themselves. And they don't have to.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
They don't have to sabotage themselves.
So what would be some, examples of a perceived type conflict people might consider or might have?
Sure. So if negotiations are in a formal business place at a conference table, the size of the conference table could be overwhelming to someone, could be intimidating. It could be that I walk into a business meeting by myself and I am confronted on the other side of the table with a panel of people I didn't expect to be in that conversation. So if we just understand that we control our actions, we control our attitudes, very little should be able to impact that when you're having these kind of conversations that are hoping to meet some kind of end goal.
Okay. So then, what are some of the things that people should know before going into a negotiation deal or situation?
Well, I think people ought to know how to exhibit self-control. That's, not being overly excited. I'm a people person. I'm very happy 99% of the time, but I don't want to take that into a formal negotiation all the time. So sometimes I want to have my poker face on. Sometimes I want to have my chess game, face on. I think that what people should know is to exhibit self-control and to practice before you go into a negotiation. You can practice negotiations at your local fish market. I don't want to pay 17 pounds per one, $17 for 1 pound of fish. How about I pay you $13, for a pound? That's a negotiation. Or with my local lawn service, okay, the prices will go up after wintertime. Well, I want my lawn service to know they have competitors in the area that want my business. And I want to know what they can do to keep my business. We'll have those kind of conversations. Practice with regular interactions before you get into a major negotiation. It's priceless and it's free to do it. And you don't lose anything.
So would you say almost everything in life is a negotiation?
I would say a lot of conversations can be perceived to be that way if you look at negotiations the way that I do.
Yeah. Well, I think about it sometimes when I'm just trying to figure out what to have for dinner in the evening with my husband. And so we'll talk back and forth until we both come up with something that we both will want. I'm like, he might want fish one day and I want a filet mignon one day.
Right.
So we're not going to get anywhere if we don't compromise or come up with an alternate choice. So I think negotiation is not about one side winning or losing, but coming up with a choice that both people can live with. Would you say that would be a fair assessment of a negotiation?
I agree. A negotiation to me is something that has to be mutually beneficial to both parties. Now, if I obtain more of the benefit, that's fine with me. But I want you to walk away with something too. So for that reason, I might come with giveaways. I might come knowing that there are some things that I can spare that I will offer that they don't hurt me and they just make you more attracted to my deal is what they do. So those I call giveaways. And then of course you go into negotiations with leverage. You have to know what is bait or what is attractive to the other party, what their interests and concerns are, and know how to maneuver or wave that bit of information around during a conversation.
So give us an example of a successful negotiation.
Okay. So today I was with a client and we, for the very first time, were approaching a lender together that she is interested in obtaining up to $40,000 from. The lender was not entirely impressed with the business plan, which is very important to a lender. It shows financial projections, things like that. And it looked as if my client might not be on the receiving end of a loan or a prospect for a loan. And so what we tapped into at that point was personal experience and what the lender found to be interesting and exciting. So a simple shift in the conversation from what my client was proposing to do in business to asking the lender, do you have children? Because it was a family entertainment indoor play area. Shifting the conversation to the lender and trying to understand and gauge what their concerns were. Because if we couldn't have covered that concern in the business plan, at least let's address it in conversation while we're face to face. She began asking the lender, did he have children? And that conversation went someplace we didn't expect. And it took the focus off of the business plan, which was negative at that point, and put her back in a positive light because she engaged him and she started talking about family and things that get people to come to her place of business. So she walked out of there with a sense that she is going to acquire that money for that loan pretty quickly.
That's fabulous. So she got into the lender's head, so to speak, and I would say that would be the thing. You'd get into the mind of the person on the other side of the table, if you will, and know what it is they really want. Because sometimes we also, would you say we assume what the other person wants, and so we're trying to give them things that maybe aren't important to them as opposed to trying to find the things that are?
I believe in most of our interactions, we should try to make a friend. Understand what is interesting to the person that you're talking to and be in the moment with that person. When we have conversations, we're thinking, oh my God, I need to go grocery shopping after this, after I get off the phone, or I need to do this, this, and this. Clear your head and be in the moment and in sync with the person, and amazing things will come out of that conversation.
That is so true. I just want to welcome some of our guests. I see we have Tracy Bass, Kim Harris Coaching joined us, Dare Dreamer TV, and Female Exec Magazine. So welcome everybody. By the way, during the conversation, if you do have questions, feel free to write them over there in the message area, and Tisha and I will try to address them. And at the end, we will have it open for questions. And if someone would like to get into the open seat, I like to call it the hot seat, and maybe ask a question live and be on the camera, we're more than happy to do that. Tisha, this is wonderful. So why do people fail when it comes to successfully negotiating outcomes they want?
I think that sometimes people might go into a negotiation with too much bravado or ego or aggression. And it's certainly attractive to be confident and to show confidence and exhibit that. But it's not attractive to be aggressive or cocky or make jokes at someone else's expense. It's not attractive to waste someone's time if you're not prepared and coming with leverage and coming with giveaways and coming with idea to try to find a win-win. That may not get you very far in that conversation, or it might create a very long conversation that doesn't end with the result that you were looking for. I think a lot of it has to do with the attitude that you bring to the table. People can read your persona. No matter how much I try to put on a poker face, something in me exudes, what I'm really feeling at the moment. So be yourself, but if your self is egotistic, keep that self at home.
Keep your ego at home.
Sure.
That's smart. So what would be some examples of leverage in a negotiation?
Okay. So some examples of leverage would be, if I am trying to negotiate a salary increase, I would hope I'd be able to do that at the onset of an initial interview for a hiring, in the hiring process. If I understand that I have skills that not everyone brings to the job place, if I understand and have data, some people really like numbers. If I can demonstrate that I have this, and this accomplishments, and I want to bring them to your workplace, I believe that this is what I should be compensated for. So it would help to have comparables of what other salaries are that you're trying to achieve, and then actually be able to demonstrate how you're going to perform all of the accomplishments in the same place and more, down to a number of days or pay periods. So if I'm being recruited for a new position, I'm going to come in and I'm going to look at what salary is being offered. And more than likely, I'm going to request something $5,000 over that salary. Being able to demonstrate to the employer why that $5,000 matters to me and is necessary additional compensation for what I offer. And I'll show them, if necessary, what others have offered me for the same or similar position.
And if you're talking a salary on an annual basis, and you even broke that $5,000 down to how much it would cost them a day, it would seem like nothing. $5,000 seems like a lot of money, but it's all how you position. I think. I've never worked for anybody other than in college when I worked in a car wash and a couple other odd jobs. So I've never had to negotiate a salary, but I'm negotiating with clients all the time. I mean, I think when I'm doing, for instance, web design, and someone needs my services, I will give them my price, and I'll always ask them if you've gotten other prices and what you're doing and what are your needs, and then oftentimes I'll negotiate myself down in the price, and I think that's a big thing that women do. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, let me say that we women are good at bargain hunting. Would you agree? We will drive across town to find a dress that's $17 less at that store, than it is from the store around our house. We love to bargain shop, but we don't bring that passion and interest and confidence to the bargaining table where you negotiate at. So certainly I have also been in situations where I've talked myself right out of, something that would have benefited me, with the understanding that when I do good, I get good. So there are times I've dropped my price significantly, deep discounted, offered partial payments, with the understanding that all of this will come back to me as long as I'm doing it with good intentions and a good heart.
Yeah. But do you think that women tend to do that a lot and in other words, undervaluing what we do? I think that's what I'm trying to get at. I think that sometimes we don't give ourselves enough value for what we do bring to the table.
Absolutely. If we had an opportunity to negotiate our salaries and we asked for $5,000 over and deservedly asked for it, not just because it's a number to throw out, if we would do that during the initial interview, it'd be very rare that other women for that same position would want to do that. I would estimate that 1 out of 10 women in a job interview actually want to discuss salary. But 6 out of 10 men within 4 minutes are talking what my salary and benefits are going to be at the first interview. Why we don't do that, I don't completely understand. But since I've learned that that's the case, I'm not quick to talk about it, but I'm confident enough to say to a client, a customer, a prospective person who wants to work with me that these are my rates. I can only go so far lower than that because I have to be compensated for the hard work and investment that I'm going to invest into someone. So yes, we do undervalue ourselves. We don't have to, but we certainly do.
Well, I think what I have done in the past, I don't do it much now, but because I've realized that, even though I'm a little higher priced than a lot of my peers in the same industry, I give so much more in value. And so what I think we have to do is really show the value proposition, what we're actually giving because a lot of times people will say, okay, but they can do this website for $1,000 and you're telling me it's $1,500, but I give them training, I give them resources, I give them tools, they have access to me. We have so many changes. I mean, I show them side-by-side comparisons. I say, look, ask the other person, what are they going to do? Are they, oftentimes it can happen where they'll say, oh, yeah, I'll do that. But if they don't put it in writing, I tell my clients, don't. I've had clients come to me who've worked with other people and have said, I should have listened to you because Heidi, now and then they come back and they've got to pay me to fix things. And so that's when I realized my value. When people were going to other places who are charging less money and then realizing they weren't getting what they thought they were getting, what they were really paying for. And because in my industry, so many people don't understand it, they're not even sure what they're paying for, so they're thinking they're getting this in a website and they're actually, they're instead of getting a Cadillac, they're getting a Fugo or whatever a little, you know what I mean? So they're not getting the kind of car that they expect or website in my case. And I think that, I think a lot of people do that in any industry, would you agree?
Yeah.
So what are some tips for successfully negotiating, Tisha?
I think first and foremost, you have to desire to get a win-win. You have to trust that the system works, but that it should work for both sides of the table, both parties involved in that discussion. I think that you need to do research. If I'm negotiating a salary or invoice with a potential customer, I need to know what the customer is looking for. It's very hard to create an invoice when we've just had a text message. I need a consultation with you. I have to understand. I need to invest some time in you, and I need you to invest some time in me, so we can both know that we're walking down the same road. I think that people should feel okay to give things away, not things that are going to hurt you. But for instance, if I wanted to attract an employee into my business and I was recruiting someone, and I knew that someone else was recruiting them also, I might, in addition to a compensation package, offer a suite of furniture. It doesn't hurt me to give you furniture because it's an asset for my business. I need furniture anyway. It doesn't matter if I sit in it. That's a giveaway to me. So come with some giveaways. I don't mean a little stress ball. I mean something a person can use. I don't mean a calendar. Something someone can use.
Something of value to the other person.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I agree. I think you have to weigh the value of the giveaways with what you're actually getting compensated for, because you cannot see, to me, and I imagine it sounds to me like you agree with this, is it's hard to give away time because we have such a limited amount. But there are other things that we can do in place of time that the other person may want. And, you're right. Through just talking to someone, I just did a proposal for a client that took me 3 weeks to really understand what she needed before I could actually write a proposal. And we did a lot of back and forth. We did a couple of phone calls, but I really want to get it right the first time, because I don't want to go back and then say, oh, but that's not what we agreed upon. I've had that happen. And then what do you do when you're in a situation where you've come up with this agreed price for the agreed amount of service or product or whatever it is, and then the customer says, but that's not what I wanted. That's not what I expected.
Right.
So you're right. You have to question. You have to ask a lot. Yeah. I want to welcome a couple other people. We have Sharon Addison. Thank you so much for sharing today's chat or interview. Mrs. S, Mike Lamoth, J.R. Bedard, and I'm excited when we get a lot of new people into the room, because into our interview, it's really great. We're at the EntreprenHer show with Tisha Hammond, and I'm just delighted. We're learning a lot of great things. What else do you think our audience needs to know about negotiating to achieve their goals, Tisha?
I want people to be a piggy. So don't be a pig. I want you to be a piggy. And I want to explain what piggy means. So piggy is P-I-G-G-Y. P, preparation. You have to prepare if you want a positive outcome in a negotiation, right? You have to, in my opinion, offer the introductory discussion. I like to speak first when I'm negotiating something. I like to put in the mind of others what I want them to know up front. I like that very much. G, gauge areas of concern. So if someone says that they're having trouble understanding a particular idea that you've thrown out on the table or a particular number, don't just discount that and gloss over it or get upset by it. Ask questions. What is it about this number that causes concern? Ask a question, and it might evolve into another part of the conversation. G, generate options. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to come to a negotiation and not have an idea of what your remedy or outcome is going to be, and not be flexible in accepting what the other person's remedy or outcome is going to be for you. And then the Y is yes. Yes, meaning go for the agreement. And when you can get people to agree with you, get that in writing before you leave the area. Even if it's just a proposal, get it in writing, because people will happily forget what you discussed if it's not in writing. And then you're accountable. So piggy. PIGGY is my approach to negotiation.
Oh, that's excellent. And getting to yes is sometimes very difficult for people. So I think that by addressing all the concerns at the beginning and really talking about it before you come to terms, it makes it easier to come to terms. Are there any books that you recommend on negotiation that you think people should be maybe taking a look at, reading?
I don't have a book, but there is Effective Negotiation by, I believe it's Chester Karras. He has a 2-day seminar that is phenomenal. And I would highly recommend, listeners trying to chime into those resources. It's been very helpful to me.
Good. Do you do any kind of training on negotiation?
Yes, I have a training course that I've been able to teach in Michigan and in Alabama called Power Shift, the Art of Negotiation, shifting favor in your, shifting the odds in your favor, so that course tends to be about an hour and a half. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's one of my favorite courses to teach, and it's very fun, I'll say. If you ever have a chance to participate in person, very fun.
Well, if you could do it as a webinar, I think you get a lot of participation all over the country, right?
I think so.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you cover in your course?
So what I cover is right out the gate, I let people know that they're already expert negotiators, or at least experienced negotiators. So what I teach is probably already common knowledge to some. Maybe it just hasn't risen up here in the forefront of their thoughts. But I tell people, we negotiate with our girlfriends when we're trying to figure out what we're going to do on our girls' nights. I don't want to go to the movies. No, I want to go to the spa. No, okay. We have to figure out what we're going to do, ladies. We negotiate with our spouses, our loved ones, where we want to live, when we're going to, when we're going to eat dinner, where the kids are going to go to school. You're negotiating all the time. I talk to people about the piggy approach and going for the win, except it's the win-win in this case. The idea that receiving a mutually beneficial agreement is better than walking away with nothing at all. One of the other things I cover is attitude. It doesn't make sense to get riled up, mad, sad, frustrated during a negotiation. That can just sour future attempts at the negotiation. So I explain to people it's okay to cut off the conversation and to ask to reschedule it for a time when tempers are calmer and minds are more focused. You don't have to give up on a deal. You just postpone it.
That's smart. So, I know we didn't talk a lot about this, but I think it might be important for people to understand compromise. So how important is compromise in a negotiation? And maybe could you give an example of a good way to compromise in it, maybe in a business deal?
So compromise is important. I don't want people to get the sense, though, that they should compromise all the time. Because in any relationship, if you are the one compromising all the time, you feel like a smaller person, you feel less than, and then you don't aim for the stars. So I don't want you to compromise all the time, but I do want you to recognize that because you've asked for something in a negotiation, if you can get a portion of that, which allows the other party to also receive a portion of what they want, it doesn't mean that's the end of that conversation. You go back at it down the road, a couple weeks later, a couple months later, when the time is right. So compromise can be important, but to me, it's not something that I want to lay down and do over and over and over again in any relationship. Not with a business partner, not with a spouse. I don't negotiate with my children, but they think I do. I don't compromise too often, but sometimes it's direly important.
Absolutely, I agree. So I understand you have a tip or resource of the week. Would you like to share that with our audience?
It's about cold contacting. So I work with a lot of small businesses who are trying to find out what their market niche is. And I have a workshop that I love to teach called cold contacting. And it's making a game out of creatively talking to people in an elevator, in the grocery store, spur of the moment. So this is what I recommend. I recommend get a party of people together that you can have fun with, and name off as many names for all of the letters of the alphabet that each person can think of, and have one person record all of those names. When you have exhausted yourself trying to name everybody in the world that you can think a name relates to the letter of the alphabet for, stop the game and move to the next part of the game, which is saying, okay, here's the name Angela. Go around the group and find out who knows an Angela, and do we have contact information for her? Whoever has contact information for Angela, we call Angela right then. Now, this can't be at 5 a.m. or
or midnight.
Right, we have to know her time zone. We want to respect her or him. Call the person right away if you're in business and it's a respectable time, and introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself to them, and let them know you want to make them a satisfied business owner. Satisfied customer. Explain very clearly and directly that the purpose of your call is to introduce them to your business. And that by the end of the call, you're hoping that you've attracted them some way to that. It should be a short call, enough to get into someone's head that, hey, I just came across somebody who just started a business. Let them know that you're on social media. At least leave them with some information that is going to lead them to a website or a social media site, or to want to call you again, to discuss what you just landed on them and ended the conversation. Very quick phone calls, very matter of fact, and then move to the next name. Check off the names and reward yourself as a group when you've hit 10 names or 15 names and been able to make really short, quick phone calls along the way.
So how do you get 10 people to agree to do this? Because I know a lot of people would like, oh no, I'm not calling anybody.
Don't tell them. You invite them.
Don't tell them. Oh,
you don't tell them. You invite them to your house. People like food and drink. Invite them to your home. Make it fun and exciting. Let them know that you came up with this idea. And because they're your friends and your family, they're going to support you. And they don't have to be the one making the phone call necessarily. There will be some brave person to step up in the group and say, hey, I'll make the phone call. And it's not a prank call like we did in 3rd grade. It's a real, hey, this is Tisha. I just remembered that I had your contact information. I launched a business this year and I need to tell somebody about it. Do you have a minute to listen to me? Tell them what it is and get off the phone and on to the next call.
That's excellent. So everybody doesn't have to make the calls. The playing is that everybody contributes names, and that's brilliant actually, because it's, if you think about it, when you're first in business, especially, you are calling your friends and asking them who they know and who they can refer. So by making a game out of it, wow, I think that's brilliant. You need to package that, my dear. Trademark it, do something with it. It's just a fabulous tool that you could use for almost any situation, I think. So is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we go to the end? Because I can't believe we're almost out of time.
Be a listener. I have been criticized because I talk too much sometimes. And I have to accept that criticism because it's true. You have to listen to people. People don't want to be talked over. People want a chance to have their fair say also. So as much as you are a talker, be a listener and form a friendship, and you'll go very, very far.
Excellent advice, and thank you very much. So before we get to the very end, I'd like to just ask our listeners and viewers, if anybody has a question, you may either ask for the seat if you have a question pertaining to negotiation for Tisha, or you can just ask the question in the message area. And I want to welcome Linda Hillman, and also Roxanne Riskin and Queen, who recently joined. So thank you, folks, for joining. This is wonderful. We'll wait a second to hear. In the meantime, tell us how our audience can get in contact with you the best way. And then if you wouldn't mind typing it in the message area so that people come and watch a replay can also say, oh, I need to call her, Tisha. I really need help with my negotiation skills.
So I'm typing my website in. It's fromlaunchtoascent.com. From launch to ascent. So I'm guiding entrepreneurs from the launch of their startup to the ascent, where they see success being for them. The other way to reach me is on Facebook, Tisha Hammond, Tisha Hammond. And then my business page is Ascent Small Business Promotion, LLC. I'm on Instagram as From Launch to Ascent. My favorite way to be contacted is LinkedIn. So if you find me, Tisha Hammond, Small Business Cheerleader on LinkedIn, and you send me LinkedIn messages, I reply to those very quickly. Yeah.
You do. Thank you very much, Tisha. Tisha Hammond, we have been listening to Talking with Tisha Hammond, The Art of Negotiation. Of course, I'm Heidi Richards Mooney. The name of my company is Redhead Marketing, and I'm the founder of Women in E-Commerce. Please do check out our new website, WECAI, WECAI.org. It's a brand, we just relaunched it. It's a 14-year-old organization, and just recently redid our website for about the 6th time. So very excited about that. And of course, if you'd like to be a guest on the EntreprenHer show, drop me a line at Heidi@WECAI.org. Thank you, Tisha, for being with us. I really appreciate your time today. You were fabulous.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. You have a great show.
Oh, thanks. And tomorrow's Libby Gill, and Libby Gill's going to be talking about your leadership style and branding. So please join us tomorrow at 1:00 for that. And again, thank you, Tisha. I'll send you a link to the recording when we're finished. And thank you all for being with us today. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.